Do you remember how in 2023 a white woman stole a bike from a group of black men, and then when the internet called her out for it, she played the victim? No, me neither. Because what actually happened is said white woman, who was a nurse getting off from a 12-hour shift and pregnant, did indeed pay for the bike, however was framed and then dubbed Citi Bike Karen, despite the fact that she had the receipts to back up that she was the possessor of the actual bike. However, this didn't stop countless news outlets covering the story like this.
Many are blasting the hospital worker, a physician's assistant who NYC Health and Hospitals Bellevue say appears to work for them. The City Hospital Group saying they are sorry this happened and are reviewing the incident. Civil rights attorney Ben Crum tweeting, "This is unacceptable," and "She grossly tried to weaponize her tears to paint this man as a threat."
Now, if you're anything like me, you have been paying attention to the shifting social and cultural norms of the era that dictate who you are allowed to hate, disparage, or dunk on publicly. And once upon a time, that group seemingly was isolated to men, or white men in particular, and perhaps for fear of being dubbed a misogynist or having internalized misogyny, you were not allowed, by contrast, to dunk on women in general. However, you were allowed through a loophole to dunk on a particular kind of woman and claim virtue in the process. And that group, of course, is white women. Hello and welcome back to the Laytonicals channel. It is I, the Layton in question, and today we are going to be starting our exploration of the world of White Women, a book which, if I'm honest, I'm somewhat apprehensive to both read and review for you because, as far as I can tell, it is going to be the spiritual successor to a book that I have already read and reviewed for you, to a whole 500,000 of you, in fact, and that book is, of course, White Fragility. Which, if I were to summarise that book quickly for you, the central thesis is that all white people are racist, and that's about it. And so, before we begin our deep dive full of quotes and analysis and citations and things of that nature, I want to do a little bit of circumambulation. I want to start wide and then hone in to the central thing with you together. The authors of the book run a series of dinners called Race for Dinner, wherein they host what I suspect are going to be middle class to wealthy white women and teach them about all of the ways in which that they are racist.
So I want a show of hands of everyone at this table who is racist.
Oh my God.
And luckily for us, they have put it all on full display because they have made a documentary documenting this process called Deconstructing Karen, which, for context, if you were wondering, is on the streaming service Apple TV. That's right, baby boy. The very makers of the device that you're probably watching this on, a phone, a TV, a laptop, are the same people funding shows like these. And so I figure we'll watch a clip of that just to get a little taste of what's to come. I can't remember if I've said this publicly already in a video or a Patreon blog post. Sign up to the Patreon and get your name immortalized forever. But when I read and reviewed the Robin Diangelo books, whether that's White Fragility or Nice Racism, I genuinely started to feel mentally ill. I think it's like when my psyche met the psyche of somebody else like that, it changed me irreparably. And so I'm only going to continue on with the rest of this series in the event that I see that there's a demand for it. And so in that spirit, baby boy, please get your comment fingers ready. Drop a like if you're excited and let us jump into the wondrous white world of white women together. And so it begins. We are going to begin with an inspection of the book from front to back, from top to bottom, and then probably do a little bit of a compare and contrast with the OG White Fragility. So let us do just that. It is a New York Times bestseller, and the quote is by somebody called Chelsea Handler, which, I'm sorry if that's somebody that I should know. I don't know who this girlie is. If this is a central figure in US culture, I'm sorry I don't know who this is. Chelsea Handler says, "I am always looking for ways to learn, grow, and shut the F up." And listen, this book gives you the tools to do just that. Okay, good faith interpretation is, I want to be receptive, I want to listen to the upsets of those that have been historically disparaged, rejected, systemically disenfranchised, let's say. However, let's say like a bad faith. Okay, one thing I noticed in the OG, White Fragility, is that there does seem to be this kind of masochistic streak. There's this like self-hatred for being white, essentially. And so this proclivity is the part where she says, and you know, an opportunity to shut the fuck up. There's this kind of like, tell me what to do, daddy. A little bit of submission from time to time is a little bit hard. But in the context of like discourse and, you know, public relations, I don't know, I'm more on the side of equality as opposed to, I'm going to tell you what to do and you need to shut the fuck up. So it's called White Women, Everything You Already Know About Your Own Racism and How to Do Better. That's a bit snide if you ask me. Tonally, everything you already know about your own race. It's like, why even read the book then if you already know it allegedly? And then the How to Do Better, it's very like 2017 to me. It's very 2017 Twitter of like... do better. You've got the classic, I presume this to be the white woman tier, which as we learned in White Fragility, if women cry, it's because they're playing the victim card. They're trying to drum up sympathy. By Regina Jackson and Saira Rowe. That's going to be a microaggression. And then the blurb. To all white women, I feel like I've infiltrated, bro. I feel like we're playing fucking Among Us and I'm the imposter because I am not a white woman. I don't know if you could tell. Although, dear all white women, Central Park Karen, Rachel Hollis, the latest white lady caught on camera berating a black or brown person, you love to point to these women and talk about how horribly, terribly racist they are. But the truth is that all white women are racist. My brain is breaking. Here's what happens within discourse. This group says, for instance, all white people are racist, and then there'll be a group that says, you guys are fucked up because you're saying that all white people are racist, which isn't necessarily the case. And then there'll be another group that says, what you're saying that our group says all white people are racist, you're parodying that. It's like, mate, it's on the back of the fucking book. Okay, you don't even have to read the book. It's right there in fucking black and white. Okay, so this proclivity of, all white people are racist. We don't say all white people are racist. It's like, it's right, whatever. What the Okay, so I'm getting tight already because people like, you're mischaracterizing us. We're literally citing your fucking shit back to you. I don't know if any of that's gonna go in, but the truth is that all white women are racist. Yes, even you, me. Sorry, did that hurt your feelings? Was that not nice? The condescension, bro. That's another thing. There's a fucking masochism kink. There's a condescension kink. Oh, sorry, did I hurt your little feelings? I said earlier that I suspect that this is probably going to be the kind of spiritual successor of White Fragility. And if you've seen that series, which I recommend that you do after this video if you haven't already, I'm not a fan of the condescension and the you need to shut the fuck up and listen to this group. I'm a big fan of reciprocity and a big fan of collaboration and things of that nature. So this, like, it's just kind of cringe. And I wish I could say something more academically rigorous or something. But it is just, mate, just call it a spade, yeah? It's just kind of fucking cringe, bro. As the founders of Race to Dinner, an organisation that facilitates conversations between white women and white supremacy and racism, specifically your complicity in upholding white supremacy and your racism, we explore your obsession with niceness and perfection, even as it relates to your anti-racism work. In this book, we ask, how was being nice helped black women, indigenous women, and other women of colour? How has being nice helped you in your quest to end sexism? Has being nice earned you economic parity with white men? Beginning with freeing white women from this oppressive need to be nice, we deconstruct and analyse 9 aspects of traditional white women behaviour, from tone policing to weaponizing tears that uphold white supremacy society and hurt all of us who are trying to live a freer, more equitable life. That paragraph wasn't terrible, I will say. I don't like the word equity, I'll fucking tell you that. Equality is equality of opportunity. Equity is the equality of outcome. Here's an example of equity. If there's like 30 people in a class and they all do a test, and there are some people that clearly do better and some people that clearly do worse, equity says, well, we're going to measure that out so everybody basically gets the same. And so at that point, it's like, so what's the point? There's no meritocracy, essentially, which books like these put forward the idea that meritocracy is just a white supremacist talking point anyway, because there's no such thing as actual meritocracy, because people have different starting points, which I can somewhat see. But it's like, you can't factor everything. What are you going to do? You can't level the playing field in every single fucking variable. And even if you could anyway, there's still going to be differences. Like, I would rather the shoddiness, say, of meritocracy versus the tyranny of equity. White Women is a call to action to those of you who are looking to take the next steps in dismantling white supremacy. Your white supremacy. If you are in fact doing real anti-racism work, you will find few reasons to be nice. Leave your feelings at the door and have a seat at our table. Sit down, shut the fuck up, and listen to what we have to say. For all black, indigenous, brown, and non-white girls, women, and non-binary identifying folks who are sick and tired of white women's bullshit. So now we have the contents page, in which we have: your quest for perfection is killing us and you. Generally speaking, not a fan of perfectionism. In the event that you can quell it, it's probably better for you in general. However, I suspect that my ethos and their ethos is not going to be the same. I'm talking about creativity and expression. They're talking about... we'll find out, I guess. Your nice is actually evil. Hey, okay. Your white silence is violence. You see oppression through a gender lens. You erase your white power. You are colorblind. You are white feminists. That's not a title, that's just kind of a rant. Also, what's interesting in this one is that you are colorblind. So I'm guessing it's not even going to imply, it's just going to outright say that if you try and practice colorblindness, that's actually a white supremacist tool. You're doing a racism. However, interestingly, Coleman Hughes, who I've mentioned on the channel before, actually did a TED talk in favor of colorblindness, and then he had a whole debacle where TED actually suppressed it. My point being, if a part of white supremacy is colorblindness, and a black man in Coleman Hughes is actually propagating the idea that maybe colorblindness is actually a good idea, is he a black man with internalized racism? Is he a black man upholding white supremacy?
In that talk, I defended colorblindness, which is the idea that we should treat people without regard to race, both in our personal lives and in our public policy. Certain TED staffers wanted to squash my talk altogether. As it is, the lack of standard promotion by TED has Coleman's talk at about 10% of the views of all the other talks surrounding his on their site. End quote.
We've got chapter 5, your white entitlement, and then we have how schools and white mothers uphold white supremacy. Oh, I feel like that one's going to be kind of saucy. I've seen rattlings of the idea that even white people continuing to have children, the very idea of them doing that is in and of itself upholding white supremacy, which, if any other, hey, it would be better if your group of people didn't reproduce. If that were any other, I don't know, it seems a bit racist to me is all I'm saying. Microaggressions and how you kill us at work. Why is it gotta be so inflammatory, bro? Kill us at work? Because if we really wanted to go at like workplace fatalities, it's probably overwhelmingly gonna be white men, but when they say kill us, it's gonna be like metaphorical, especially if they're talking about microaggressions, it's gonna be like death by 1,000 cuts, and it'll probably be kind of trite examples of like, actually, it's not okay if you touch my hair in the workplace. I'm just saying it's kind of, it's a bit zealous. It's a bit exaggerative if you ask me. Every time you say love trumps hate, you are enabling hate to flourish. What is this backward ass? Okay, so being nice is evil, and also saying that love trumps hate actually allows hate to flourish. Okay, good. We're in upside down world. So we're going to start with watching a clip of their documentary called Race to Dinner. Although, coincidentally, they actually seemingly plug that in the book. They got that cross-pollination promo, baby boy. So I guess I'll just read that right quick as a prelude to the prelude, and then we'll get into the book. Race to Dinner was founded in 2019 as a dinner experience with Regina Jackson, a black woman, Saira Rao, an Asian woman, and 8 to 10 white women. There is no better place for honest conversations than at the dinner table. Breaking bread together helps to facilitate conversations around white supremacy, racism, and xenophobia. These dinners require white women to participate in direct, difficult conversations. It is not for the faint of heart. It is not racism 101. It is tough, vulnerable, and full of emotion. So, too, is this book. Welcome. It's somewhat interesting that they say it's full of emotion, because they literally have already said that you're supposed to leave your feelings at the door. Isn't that literally on the back? Leave your feelings at the door, but then they also say that the dinners are full of emotion. So I'm like, pick a lane, bro. This seems very bougie and very wealthy. I'm so curious. We're gonna do a little bit of digging in a sec, because I'm so curious to see how much these cost. I'm gonna estimate a few hundred, if not a few grand, honestly. That smile is going to be rubbed off your face very soon, my dear.
So I want a show of hands of everyone at this table who is racist.
Okay, so what's expected to happen is that all of the white women are expected to put all of their hands up, because again, as the fucking back of the book has already mentioned, that all white women are racist, and so that's going to kick things off, and then it's going to be like, well, why do you think you're not racist? It's so funny that, like, once upon a time, the socially acceptable punching bag, so to speak, was white men. You could damn near say anything you wanted about white men, and now it's like, oh, and by the way, the white girlies, you're not safe either.
I've always thought of myself as being, like, kind of woke.
When did this documentary come out? Who was still saying woke? Genuinely. This documentary came out at the end of 2022. I've always thought of myself as woke. Are these actors? They're not, but I'm kind of like, where are they finding these people, broski?
I'm blinded to color. Like, it doesn't faze me at all. When we bleed red.
Not allowed to be colorblind. That's a racism. Bing, 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 bing.
I understand you have issues with a skin color, but I don't believe that's our future.
Let me ask you a question. How many of you would trade places with a black person in this society? Raise your hand.
That's somewhat of an interesting question. I don't think that the answer inherently means... I don't think it's a valid question, because it seems to be, in the event that you wouldn't trade places with a black woman, that must mean that you accept that being white is the more beneficial group to be, the more beneficial immutable characteristic to be. But if I were to be asked that, for instance, me being a brown boy, I think I've said this in a previous video, like, I hit the fucking jackpot as far as I'm concerned. I wouldn't change sex or race if given the choice, at the video game character creation screen of life, I kind of some people are going to get tight about this, I imagine, but I wouldn't change place for a Caucasian for anything. I'm not saying, I should point this out at the very beginning, my point of view is not that I don't think racism exists. I do think racism exists. I also think that the ways in which people like this describe it, talk about it, get way too zealous about it, let's say. What's the incredible? If everybody's super, then nobody is. And then so by contrast, it's the thing of like, if everybody's racist, then no one is. I'm not quite saying that. That's okay. If you call everybody racist, it kind of loses all of its power and meaning, because then it's like, well, how do you make qualitative distinctions, so to speak? Seemingly within this paradigm, it's, you are racist inherently. There's nothing you can do about it other than accepting that you are racist and then doing the work. Okay, so that's the trailer. So if that's a prelude, okay, this is giving like reality TV, a little bit Real Housewife-y. I suspect it's going to get a little bit catty, Well, they got 10 women in a thing, and two of them, in fact, are like, you're all racist. That sounds like the fucking setup to a fucking 10 women walk into a bar, 2 of them say the rest are racist. Maybe the punchline to that joke is everybody that voluntarily paid thousands to participate in that. Let's see if we can quickly find how much it is were White Fragility to be adapted as reality TV. The result might look something like this: a collection of affluent white women equipped with varying degrees of vanity and self-delusion gather at a well-appointed dinner table. They face down a pair of unsparing judges prepared to see right through them. Who's racist? ? Time to find out. White women... Sounds like a fucking game show. Who's racist? Time to find out. White wine flows. White women admit shameful secrets. They get squirmy. They get angry. They turn on each other. If one of them starts to cry, she has to leave. What? What is this fucking humiliation ritual fucking Maoist struggle session? She will find tissues in the designated crying room. What is this fucking dystopian? Okay, don't cry, and if you do, there's a room specifically for it. When they first started, they charged $2,500 per dinner to be covered by the host or divided among her guests. Okay, so if that's at the beginning. Ladies, your 5,000 racism supper is ready. It seems to vary in between $2,500 up to about $5,000 from what I can tell. Although with that being said, that was before the release of this book, so I wouldn't be surprised if the price has actually gone up even more. So I was right earlier when I was like, oh, this is going to be like affluent white women that pay to be called racist. This is like the guy on Wall Street that goes to a dominatrix to kick him in the balls, like, and gets spat on. Like... Yeah, you like getting called a racist so-and-so, you racist bitch, you little racist pussy boy bitch. Ooh, let's have a look on the website. Oh my god, that is an unnerving face. Community programs, White Women the book, which is the thing that we have right now. Deconstructing Karen, the documentary, merch. That's such a strange way of phrasing it. It's like, mate, I have merch. This is merch. Some of you were saying that the shop was down in the last video. The shop is back up. If you wanna cop a Maneki Nico, you can't fuck your way out of racism. What does that mean? I'm curious. Okay, let me speculate. Let me cook, bro. I'm gonna speculate that it's either going to say, if you're a white woman and you fuck black men, that is not necessarily to say that you're not racist, which I kind of guess, but I'm also like, if you actually are racist and like hate black people, why the fuck are you fucking them unless you've got some weird like kink about you and it's like, oh, I'm a dirty little... I'm gonna get like 18 plus. I'm gonna stop. I said let me cook. Let me simmer it down a little bit, you know. Don't let me cook. Let me microwave. Let me just bring it down. So it's either, if you're a white woman and you fuck black man, you're still probably racist. Not probably, you are, okay. Oh, and then the other one, if you're a white woman and you fuck a white man, you make another child, i.e. propagating white supremacy by virtue of having another white offspring. It's gonna be that. Does it give a description? Does it? This comfy cotton tee is as soft as it is impactful, created just for Race to Dinner, a movement to inspire white women to confront themselves and acknowledge their own racism and complicity in white supremacy. Inclusive. Our classic fit is designed to work for everyone. It's a gender-neutral unisex cut. But we have different body shapes, so wouldn't the more inclusive thing be to have options that fit different kinds of body shapes rather than this kind of like homogenous androgynous bars thing? This doesn't seem inclusive. That just seems worse. We've got a fuck your feelings t-shirt. What's the description on that one? The thing is, all of the, like, so many of the people that espouse ideas like these are all for very, like, you know, safe spaces and people feeling inclusive and stuff like that. So the idea that, like, to say fuck your feelings is cool. It's like, if somebody told me that, I'd be a little bit upset, if I'm honest. Deconstruct your inner Karen. What else we got? We got tote bags for the white girlies and the gays. White feminism kills. You can't fuck your way out of racism again. Fuck your feelings mug. Fuck your feelings bag. All like print on demand type stuff. So now what I'm going to do is jump around a little bit and read bits of the preface. I'll start from the beginning. You know, why am I explaining how reading works to you? I'm going to read some of the preface and we'll get a flavour for what is to come. These aren't even prescription. If you're reading this, you are most likely white. He's infiltrated, folks. It's over. Most of what's here you already know. You've known it your whole life. This is condescending. After all, it's you, white people, who created white supremacy, who benefit from white supremacy, who uphold white supremacy. A critical component of upholding white supremacy is employing a feigned ignorance that brings you here to these pages, asking a black woman and brown woman to explain to you the nuances of this script. A script you wrote, directed, and produced, and from which you've amassed dizzying wealth and power. The thing is, human history has been going on for like over 100,000 to 200,000 years. That's the estimate anyway. Of that, modern day slavery, what we refer to as modern day slavery anyway, which we're basically just talking about the US. We're talking about like 400 years, give or take. And most people were just kind of like plonked on the earth, so to speak. They didn't have a choice in the immutable characteristics that they did. I don't know, it's putting a, what's the sins of the father, you know? It's the fucking previous people that did shit, and even on top of that, of the previous people, very few whites even, say, own slaves. Sure, you can make an argument that the other whites benefited from it, so to speak, but like, for some reason I'm just reminded now of, there was this, I swear I saw like the thumbnail for a video, or I saw a bit of a clip that was about how like a woman did like an ancestry test and found out that one of her ancestors was both a slave and a slave master, and so at that point I'm like, is she the culmination of both of those together? Like, which one is she? Is she descendant of oppressor? Is she descendant of oppressed?
I'm a little bit in shock. I just always thought of myself as Puerto Rican, you know, half Puerto Rican. I didn't think I was, my family was originally from Spain and slaveholders.
You know what you're doing, but you pretend not to. You've pretended for so long, decades, centuries, that some of you have managed to convince yourselves that you're immune to white supremacy, that you've been vaccinated by goodness. This is of a time. You believe you're colorblind. Most of you have surrounded yourselves with other white people who share your feigned ignorance. You may have the errant person of color in your friend group, usually the person buttresses your charade. People of color uphold white supremacy every single day. What? People of color uphold white supremacy every single day. It's called being a token. We are intimately familiar with this role. Is that... I might be jumping the gun here a little bit, but given that in one of the clips she kind of gloated about how she, as a woman of color, doesn't have white friends, and so is the implication here that in the event that you're a person of color and you have white friends, you're upholding white supremacy because you're actually just performing tokenism?
I will tell people, I don't really have that many white friends, and the ones that I have are, I wouldn't call them in my inner circle, but they're definitely more acquaintances than friends. And I'm going to be real honest, those are not the people I want to spend my time with.
You know, Regina says that at dinners, and the hurt feelings when Regina says, I don't trust white women. Oh my God. Oh, like, oh!
Is this like implicitly segregationist? Is that what's happening? I don't know if I'm like galaxy braining it here. And, you know, we'll go into it, but like intuitively, that's what it sounds like it is implying. In the event that it's saying that people of color are upholding white supremacy by being tokens, i.e. by being friends with white people. I'm curious what they make of interracial dating. That'll be interesting to see. This seems like it might actually get a little bit racist. Not in the way that, you know, these critical race theory people talk about it, but like actual racist of like, oh no, the blacks and the whites should be apart. Besides your token friend or colleagues of color, you have mostly surrounded yourself with other white people. That's a bit tricky because like most of the population is white people, so in a sense it's like in the event that you went out of your way specifically to befriend people of color so that you could have a I'm not racist, I have people of color friends or what have you, that almost seems more racist potentially. Like, what about just happenstance, like, whatever you just have particular friends that you have regardless of what fucking race they are? Did we think about that? They are your spouses, your neighbours, and your kids' friends, your colleagues. You are cocooned by whiteness. When everything is white, you can focus on other characteristics, the things that make you different. How much time do white women spend talking about being a blonde or a brunette or a ginger? Us, we're just black and Asian. When everything is white, you enjoy the privilege of not being a monolith, of not being grouped together with other white people because you are your own unique person. Your individuality enables you to separate yourself from bad white people, the real racists, the ones wearing MAGA hats and white hoods. Yes, of course, those people are horrific, violent, white supremacists, but in your mind they are not you. They are not even the same species as you. You would never use the N-word or call a bearded brown man a terrorist. I kind of don't like this like conglomeration of like, you know, the people in the white hoods, the swastika people, they're all racist, but also, by the way, you're actually in that camp too. You are different, you are good, you are a unique human, but us, we are a nameless, faceless, black and brown lump grouped together. I'm gonna keep it a stack, bro. Some of us kind of did it to ourselves by using terms like BIPOC. I've gone through this before, you know, this dichotomy with you have white people and then BIPOC. You kind of did it to yourself by making these kind of neologisms of like, here's how you all refer to us. The group kind of homogenized themselves, is what I'm saying. Black people are criminals. Oh my god. Black people are criminals, Latinos are lazy, Muslims are terrorists, Asians are doormats. Your stereotypes of us are obviously not compliments and meant to keep us down in our segmented groups so that we aren't able to effectively organize against you. This is very Marxist means of production, you know? It's like, you guys are putting us into a state of false consciousness so that we can't rise up and take the steering wheel for ourselves. So, you know, when people refer to, what is it, race Marxism or something, it's like, the parallels are pretty fucking apparent. They're pretty on the surface, is what I'm saying. But you are dirty blonde, whereas Beth is strawberry blonde. It's Catherine with a C, not K. Your eyes are green but turn blue when it rains. That's funny. The whites do be talking about that shit though, the individualizing characteristics. You know, I've got blue eyes but I've got flecks of green in there as well. Damn, she kind of got him with that one. You are unique as fuck. Okay, I get that I'm swearing every now and then, but this is the internet, alright? This is YouTube. This is a book, lady. I expect some fucking formality and decorum. This is precisely how you manage to detach yourself from white supremacy in your mind. Your individuality has enabled you to create an us, good white people, versus them, bad racist white people dichotomy that lets you off the hook. What about, can we, like, every motherfucker is on the spectrum nowadays, right? What about the racism spectrum? It could be, to what extent are you racist? Open bracket, it's not implicit within the question that you are racist. So we'll explain to you how you're racist, even though we're pretty sure you already know whether you're ready to admit it or not. I feel like I'm being gaslit. Like, oh no, you are racist and you know you're racist, and anything outside of that, you're just, like, you're just in denial. This is a Kafka trap. We'll indulge your feigned ignorance because our lives and our kids' lives and our grandkids' lives depend on your understanding and acknowledging the truth. Our safety, our health, and our future depend on your seeing yourselves for what you are, upholders of white supremacy. You know what, mate? Steve's just like going to work, supporting the family, coming back, watching the football or whatever, and then like, man's just going about his business. You know, it's like, this is what I'm saying, bro. These kind of like, I'm so glad to not have to be a white person at this period in time. By being brown, I actually have to do less work. All white women, a note. We heard it all and we have seen it all when it comes to the ways of white women. We often know what you are going to say before you say it. Okay, so this seems to be the section that's going to be specifically about white women. So USP, I suppose, unique selling point of the book, not just White Fragility Part 3. And you don't even have to say anything. We know your eye rolls, side eyes, arm folds, and lip purses? Is that an expression? What does that mean? Like staying tight-lipped? We know you center your feelings, believing that you have feelings around your role in upholding white supremacy. Or worse, your hurt feelings when called out for your racist acts are more important than the violence of white supremacy and racism. Your feelings often show up as tears. We call this simply white women tears. We know you cry when you are frustrated by the conversation or feel guilty or feel shame, and you cry to pivot the discussion away from racism back to your feelings, which, as we mentioned, eclipse racism in your mind. I'm curious if there's gonna turn out to be like a slightly underlying misogynist bent here, because if a guy was saying this, if like, oh yeah, no, you're just crying so you can distract away from the conversation, like, it's funny that we've been kind of like talking about manosphere stuff and, you know, gender dynamics and things of that nature, and one of the things that like manosphere dudes will like lobby as a attack on women is that they're too like emotional. Like manosphere dudes will say men are rational and women are emotional, and this book is seemingly suggesting that women, white women specifically, are emotional, and they do it to like take away from the situation.
Another big thing that dudes fuck up with is that they're not immune to the tears. Doesn't mean you're a bad, evil person if you can just sit there and listen to a woman cry and not flinch.
And what you have to know about that, because Mr. Tate says this all the time, they only cry because they got no hands, bro.
All they're going to do is cry and attempt to manipulate you. It's a manipulation tactic.
You got to stay strong and be like, I don't give a fuck.
Before you throw this book into the recycling bin or go on a Twitter rant or worse, please take a few minutes to consider what white supremacy is. Distilled to its most basic element, white supremacy is the guiding assumption that white people are superior to those of other races. That seems like a pretty decent definition, sure. I'm curious to see how it's going to extrapolate throughout the rest of the book. And racism is the mechanism employed by the mission of white supremacy. You know, like, racism happens outside of white people too, right? Like, keeping whites at the top at all costs. I don't think that's what it is, if I'm gonna keep it a stack. I feel like elitism provides a better explanation for disparities than racism. The real owners, shout out to George Carlin, don't particularly care about race. They don't really care about the race of the underclasses either, so long as there is an underclass to exploit. In a white supremacist society such as the United States, white privilege is the unearned benefit one incurs from having white skin. Therefore, if you are white, you have white privilege, and in wielding and enjoying that privilege, you are inherently upholding white supremacy. That sounds like to be alive as a white person is inherently white supremacist, because they're saying if you are white, you inherently have white privilege, and therefore, because you have white privilege, you're upholding white supremacy. And so, like, the only thread to cut that out is to simply not exist as a white person. And so earlier, I'm pretty sure I speculated about if they'll say that even having children as a white person upholds white supremacy, which presumably they would say yes to that, because the equation would be, well, you're increasing the population of white people, and because white people are inherently racist and white supremacist, that by having more children, you're actually... Mate. It is I, Glasses Leeson, has returned. Okay, that's... In the event that you are curious about the rest of this book, as I said, I will continue the rest of the series with actual rigorous analysis and review, rather than just dicking around. If there's anything else that I've left, it will be in the pinned comments. Speaking of comments, drop one down below for the kid. That, baby boy, is all she wrote for this episode. And so, as always, thanks for hanging out with me. I had fun hanging out with you. Parasocial relationship game 100.
デートに来る